we have Bruce Anderson. He grew up with these folks. So
appreciate the opportunity to be here today. As I get going through my briefing here, I've got a strong military background, and one of the things we did, I started out in the infantry, dragging my knuckles across the ground and throwing bullets downrange, transitioned into military intelligence. So as a military intelligence analyst, you end up doing a lot of briefings. And the generals always said, just tell me what you know, tell me what you don't know, and then tell me what you think. So I can tell you what I know here in about 2 minutes. I can tell you what I don't know, and it'll take all day to do that. But I can also tell you what I think here. If you have any questions during any of this, raise your hand and give me a shout. I'll be followed by Dr. Muir. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics and the handling and why we do what we do. And Dr. Muir will follow me, and he will talk about the science behind the product that we're bringing to the table here. Our basic humic acid product is Premium 6, and then we also take Premium 6 and ferment it with an amino acid product, and that's Premium 21. Premium 21 is a product that Dean and Gary said that's what we want. That's what we want in our program. So Premium 21 is the product that we'll be talking about. In the realm of humic acids, it's all about molecular size. The smaller the molecule, the more bioactive it is. And we feel that we have a product that's got very low molecular weight, that works very well, blends well, gives us great performance. One thing that's very unique about our humic acid, our Premium 21 is a low pH. So most humic acid materials are a pH of 8.5, 9.5, 10, 11. Ours is buffered down to 4.5. So we blend well with fertilizers and we stay blended well. We get very good ionic bond with fertilizer and solutions. I love to see jar tests like this. So humic acid is a colloid suspended in water. So even though I say we have one of the smallest particle sizes, it is still a particle suspended in water. So as it sits over time in a tank, those colloids start migrating to the bottom. So we keep it moving. In our warehouse, our tanks get bubbled with air every week. We just keep it moving with air. It's all cone bottom tanks, and we move it. When we mix it with fertilizer, I like to get it moving at least every 3 days. And what I really enjoy doing is taking a jar test. So whatever mixture you're going to be using, I like to make that mixture, put it in a sample bottle, and put it on your desk. So every day, you look at that, and you can see what's going on with that product. And then you know, hey, it's time to go give that thing a stir. Give it a mix, get it moving. And if it sits for too long, all those colloids will go to the bottom and they'll kind of connect together, and you get a layer of clay in the bottom of your tank after a month, 2 months. And once that clay layer establishes itself, it's hard to get that up and moving again. So we just like to always keep our product moving. All humics are sourced from lignite or leonardite. There are a number of deposits of that across North America. 20, 25 years ago, we kind of said, you can go to any one of these sources, you can get lignite, you can make humic acid, and that is true. Over the years, we've learned there are differences. So our source is up in central Canada. We do feel we found a product that makes a higher quality humic acid than on average. And somebody once told me, don't ever read your own marketing material. Well, I got to tell you, I've read our own marketing material. I believe it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I truly believe that BioGro has a better product. And that's why I've been using BioGro products for over 2 decades. So the good, the bad, the ugly about humic acids. The good thing is we bring cation exchange capacity to the fertilizer zone, help mitigate salt issues, increase biological activity, increase nutrient uptake. By doing all those things, we also improve soil tilth. We are a source of carbon. Some people say humic acid is a source of food for microbes. Other people say no, it's not. It's a housing complex for microbes to live in and for microbes to flourish on. I stay out of that argument. I don't care if it's a food source or a place for them to live. I know we support the biological efforts that are going on in the soil. So either way, I'm happy. The bad news is many humic acids don't blend well. Ours does. Blending with fertilizers, I've yet to find a fertilizer that we are not able to blend with. caveat to that is a true slow-release nitrogen. A lot of those like to be in a high pH solution, and if you buffer it down with our low pH product, sometimes it'll tear a slow-release nitrogen apart. But our best claim to fame is we blend with calcium nitrate, we blend with potassium thiosulfate. Many humics do not do that, and we are very compatible with those products. I've got a little tickler here of find and buy. So there's a lot of humic acids out there in the marketplace. I'm telling you, mine is one of the better ones. BioGro is one of the better ones. There are also some good products out there. Dr. Muir has studied over 40 different products in the last 30 years. There are some good ones out there. And there's a TV show, they did a special on humic acid one day, and they said their conclusion was, find a product that works for you on your farm and buy it from someone you trust. So we've got the product, you found us, now we got to establish that level of trust. Other things that we hear in the marketplace, some people say, hey, your humic acid should be organic certified. Ours is. Premium 21 has an organic certification. I am not an organic expert. If I get about 2 questions deep into an organic conversation, I pass them off to Reggie or to Gary. Because it's like, I know a little bit about organics, but I'm not the organic expert. Other people say it should not be cooked. So many products, when they're making humic acid, they will process it under high heat or pressure. And what that does is it denatures that molecule. So you can make a humic acid under high heat, and you can yield a higher percentage of humic. So you might make a 22% or a 24% humic solution, but that molecule has turned to ash. It still tests as humic, but agronomically it doesn't have the effect that we want it to have. All of our humic is processed 140 degrees or lower. We just keep it below that temperature. Another customer one day, before he was my customer, he says, I've been buying humic from product X, and it's oxygenated. And humic to work well, it has to be oxygenated. He says, is yours oxygenated? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. You know, and he says, well, we tested it with an oxygen meter. So I brought a sample of our product and took it up there, and he tested it, and he was smiling. I said, so we can be friends? And he says, yeah, we're friends. So I don't know what the parameters were, but he was happy with us. We met his parameters. A good humic will have a fraction of fulvic acid in it. A lot of companies will strip fulvic out of it and sell the fulvic, and then they have humic without fulvic in it. I think one of the reasons our product works well is we have a good fraction of fulvic acid in there. And obviously it has to mix well. You have to be able to get it mixed in your tank and apply the product properly. Humic acid is not fertilizer. We play a supporting role. So in the whole strategy of what we're doing, humic acid, we are assisting with fertility and soil tilth. We are not fertilizer. And I think our product has a 1-0-1 analysis, but we don't want you to use it as a fertilizer. We're there to help support that fertilizer effort and help get fertilizer into the plant. We do not add biology to our humic, so it's a blank pallet or an empty bus, and you can load that bus up with your biology, and we do a good job of supporting the biological effort. We don't have any hormones in our humic acid, but humic acid helps with hormonal expression in the plant. Kelps, we have kelp product, there's a lot of kelps out there. We help assist the kelps work well, but we don't have kelp in our product. So it's a blank pallet that you can load up and get it out to the field with whatever you need to. Agronomically, this is what caught my eye. The first time I applied humic acid, it was in 1998. I was running a retail liquid fertilizer plant in central Wisconsin and having some success. I met the owner of BioGro the winter of '97, and he was talking about humic acid and everything it does and what it brings to the marketplace. And I said, you know, we need to look at that. We need that product. So I started blending humic with my fertilizers, and I'm just amazed by the results that we got. Increased root mass, increased soil microbiological activity, and in the late '90s, in production ag, Nobody really talked about soil microbiology, but today it's what we're looking at. And so we realize the importance of that. We're buffering salts, we're increasing phosphorus uptake, we're making nitrogen use more efficient, uptake potassium and calcium. You know, we've documented those facts. So it just brings a lot to the table, helps everything work better. If I do all these things, then I would postulate the next step is we are helping increase yield potential of the crop, or helping maintain the yield potential. Once that crop is planted, there's a genetic potential to yield X number of bushels per acre, X number of tons of silage per acre. And then as events happen throughout the year, that yield is reduced. So we're doing everything we can to maintain that yield potential at the highest level we possibly can. Just the basic thing of putting 20–30% more roots under that plant. We get into some temperature stress or water stress. If I can level out the peaks and valleys of those stresses on that plant every day, I'm helping with yield potential. Physical timing and placement. We do a lot of in-furrow applications. We love to be in-furrow. Also, we help if a person doesn't do in-furrow, they're just doing a 2x2, we like to be there. We like to be banded. Early bird discussion earlier about banded placement and efficiencies. So we enjoy being with that fertility band and a higher concentration in the band in that soil. So a lot of in-furrow or 2x2 followed by wide drop or a targeted band at cultivation time. BioGro is also working on a dry soluble product line. We are at the beginning of those phases. So we're working on a dry granule that can be blended with dry fertilizer and spread. We're also looking at powder coating urea. I think that works well in Idaho and Oregon and Washington where they have very little humidity. Sometimes you come to the Midwest. I have put 50 pounds of powdered humic acid into a fertilizer tower. I think it's still up there. You know, it reacts with the humidity and it sticks to the buckets of the elevator, sticks to the tubes, you know, and I think it's still there. It'll come out one of these days. We're also looking at the possibilities of coating or encapsulating, you know, MAP, DAP, potash, that sort of thing. This is what I like to see. I have done a majority of my work the last 25 years in potatoes. Potatoes are a weak-rooted crop, and we go out there and balance the fertility, get some humic acid in there, and we just see this root mass. And that makes me smile. In the early 90s, when I first started working with potatoes, it was very frustrating because those roots didn't even cross the row. So you've got that potato hill, we're irrigating water and fertilizer out there. That fertilizer and water is running off the hill into the furrow, and it's gone. And you never see the roots. So now what we do is we get those roots to crisscross between the rows, and the earlier I can get that done, the better I feel. This is actually cantaloupes in Kansas. The guy was planting cantaloupe slips, and as he planted, he had water would go in that little furrow where he was planting the cantaloupes. He had fertilizer in the water. He had ordered some Premium 21, delay in getting it there. So he planted half of his field without Premium 21 in that mix, and the salts in his fertilizer burned those roots. It really set those plants back. They did survive, but there was a percentage of mortality, and they were behind. The next day, when he planted, he had Premium 21 in that tank with the fertilizer. The humic acid buffered the salts of that fertilizer. So he called me and was pretty excited about it. Here's field corn, standard program, and a couple gallons of Premium 21 in a 2x2. So I like seeing those kinds of pictures. I always joke, you know, I don't even have to put this up here because it's like, you know, the salesman's not going to put a photo up there unless his product makes it look better, right? So just a little humor about that. Same here, guys using 318/18 in furrow. We added our Premium 21 to that package, got this a little bit better root system. Timing is everything. We talk a lot about potassium. So I have gone out sometimes in a cornfield, and from emergence to V5, I can dig up corn plants, treated and untreated, and I've got a massive root system underneath the plant. It's like, man, you know, we're gonna have a great yield result here. And then at the end of the year, the yield is about the same. And I think a big part of that is this potassium demand. And when this slide first came out, I think 300 bushel corn was kind of a target out there that we were all wondering if we'd, you know, be there or not be there. And, you know, in today's world, there's a lot of corn yields that are, you know, steadily above 200, 250, 280. But what this shows is for about a 15 to 18 day time period, there is a demand curve where that corn plant per acre needs 15 pounds of potassium every day. And I think there's a lot of soils out there that you take a soil test and the potassium is there, but can that soil release that potassium fast enough to meet this demand curve for that short period of time? So I think if we increase the root mass of that plant, we also have to pay attention to the potassium availability. And it's not a one-time approach. It's not go out there and spread, you know, 800 pounds of potash. It's timing, it's balancing the soil, and multiple strategies to get the potassium there when the plant needs it. In the state of Wisconsin, as people are following the university recommendations for potassium, yields are going up. Price of fertilizer obviously has gone up. So I think people are applying less potassium, and I think the university recommendations are not keeping up with the removal rates. So in the last 25 years, the soil test levels of potassium in our soils has steadily gone down. So it's making this problem even worse. And I use this slide not because I think everybody should go out and say, hey, I'm going to grow 308 bushels of corn, but even if you're growing 200 bushels of corn, you still have that demand period in that crop. So here's corn. This is soybeans. This is dry matter accumulation in soybeans. So you see that same high demand curve in a short period of time. This is potatoes. In potatoes, 30 days after emergence to 45 days after emergence. There's a 15-day time period. There's a huge demand for potassium. If I'm working with a potato grower who fall spreads his potash and he's not willing to change that practice, then I probably don't go back to that guy, because he's not going to see the results that we're used to seeing. He needs to change that fall applied potash to a spring pre-plant, and have planting, and a side dress application. And there's even instances we'll go out there with an airplane and we'll fly sulfate of potash or potassium chloride on to target the timing needs. Onions, same thing with onions. Look at that potassium demand curve. Shift gears now to soybeans. In 2015, Sean Connolly at the University of Wisconsin was funded by the Wisconsin Soybean Growers Association. They wanted to do a study and just say, hey, if we put 2 gallons of something in furrow on soybeans, what products work, what products don't work? So Sean reached out to me and other fertilizer suppliers and said, just give me something. What do you think is going to work 2 gallons per acre in furrow on soybeans? And it's a little bit daunting, because you're going to put this out there, it's going to be published. It's like, I haven't done a lot of work with soybeans. I don't know. I'm gonna roll the dice and give them some products and see what happens. So 7 different companies participated, 18 different products, and they did a trial on good Arlington clay loam soil, some of the best soil in Wisconsin, and then they also did a trial up in Plainfield at the Hancock Research Farm. That's got very sandy soil. It's probably 0.9% organic matter. And that's my home turf. That's where I've done all my work with potatoes. So I've got trial data from this Plainfield sandy loam. In Arlington, on the clay loam soils, that little bit of 2 gallons in furrow, I think it made a difference up front early, and then later on everything kind of evened out. But in Plainfield, we saw some neat differences. In 2015, this information was published, and it was published in such a way that it's just kind of a chart whole bunch of numbers, didn't really mean anything. And I had a couple growers call me and ask me about my products because of this trial. And after about 2 years, I thought, I need to do a better job of understanding these results. So I took the Hancock data and I put all these numbers into a spreadsheet that I could sort from top to bottom. And once I did that, I found if I sorted by yield, my 3 products were in the top 5. I felt pretty good about that. Also, the beans were not inoculated, and I was disappointed in that. So there was one product, this Novozymes Celtec was the only inoculant product they had on these beans. So where they inoculated the beans with no fertility support, the yield was at the bottom. Here they've got a little bit of fertility. I wouldn't recommend 1034 in furrow, but that's the product that they tried, and that was middle of the pack. And then where they did inoculant with fertilizer, they were number 3. And if all the brains in this room work like my brain, I would say, what if we did fertility with biology, with some humic acid? Where would that put us, So I think, just use this for some direction. Talk about our product line here. Our Roots B was a product that was just fulvic acid. And BioGro, we like to put humic acid in the soil. We use fulvic acid as a foliar. But this is just a fulvic only. And then getting more into our comfort zone. Back in the day, in 2015, we had amino CYT that has become Premium 21. So this one, I didn't want to change the name because this is the way the product was, but this is our Premium 21, the product that AgriEnergy is sourcing from us now. So 2 gallons got us right up there to number 2. The Cal High from BioGro is a liquid calcium with organic acids, and I also put some cobalt and molybdenum in with it. And that was by far the highest yielding one, 73 bushels versus, 70 or in the 60s. Bruce Anderson has not had the courage to sell that calcium starter fertilizer yet, because what happens if you blend calcium in a tank that's had phosphorus or sulfur starter fertilizer in it? Everybody knows what's going to happen, right? You're going to have some precipitate, and my phone's going to ring and they're going to say, hey, my stuff is all plugged up. So I do have a couple of customers that are using this calcium product as a soybean starter, but I'm very careful where I place it. They also sorted yield by protein percent. I was amazed when I sorted by protein percent, my 3 products were the top 3. So there's something going on there with protein synthesis within that plant. Interestingly enough, 1034 by itself was quite low. Celtec by itself was quite low. Where you combine fertilizer with biology, you got right up there, in the top 3rd. And maybe somebody in this room can tell me, if we sort by oil percentage, the same products that increase protein decrease oil percentage. When you sell your soybeans, do you get paid on oil? No. Okay. We get paid by yield. Plant stand, what this one tells me, if I sort by plant stand, we're middle of the road there, so I think 2 gallons is enough of my product. I wouldn't want to go more than that because I wouldn't want to start reducing plant stand. And I was in with the yield again. Pretty proud of what we did with that soybean yield. And I'm excited to take this further and further and further and put together a full program. It's never one thing, right? It's never one thing. It's the whole program tied together, and then the soil health and Mother Nature cooperating. This is a field of potatoes. I apologize for showing you a potato field, but I'm a potato person. This was taken this year. It's in southern Michigan, and half of the field was fumigated, standard practice to take care of nematodes and verticillium. They will fumigate the field. They'll spend about $450 to fumigate. And basically they're trying to kill everything in the soil. They come back and plant potatoes. So what we did is we took a BioGro program with a strong fertility program, and we put that on half of the field and then fumigated the other half of the field. And what happened here, the grower said the yield was about the same, but we were able to raise a good crop without fumigating that field. And on the BioGro side of the field, we had a lot of premium 21 out there. We had a huge root system. Humic acid, again, increasing the uptake of potassium. With potatoes, after they flower, once they've flowered, they go through a change within that plant, and they start dumping potassium out of the canopy and down into the roots to form the potato tubers. So when potassium levels in the canopy drop, early blight comes in, and we start getting early blight disease. So I think what's showing in this field is we assisted that plant take up enough potassium that we held off the early blight. So it's not a fungicide, but we actually had almost a fungicidal effect where early blight was hammering here, and our potassium levels, our good root system and our high potassium levels help protect us from early blight. With that, I love quotes from General Mattis. General James Mattis, he always said, be brilliant at the basics. So as we go through all these things, don't lose sight of the basics. Soil tilth, soil health, the right varieties on the right soil, and then backing it up with a full, well-rounded program of all these products that are available to us. That's going to be our path to success. Any questions of me? Did I put everybody to sleep? All right. I'll be followed by Dr. Muir. He's going to talk about the science behind humic acid and why we think some of these products are working the way they are. And I think you'll enjoy them. Dr. Muir spent 30 years at the University of Idaho studying humic acids and other products. So not only does he understand how BioGro's products work well, but he studied virtually every product in the marketplace. So if you have a question about our products, that's great. If you have questions of him about almost any other products, he's done a lot of testing.
Yes, I will be.
So with that, Dr. Muir.